Okay, Paul, my friend Paul. Everybody, this can get confusing. I'm going to be talking about Paul. Saul of Tarsus, Paul from the Bible, Paul of Christian lore and fame. Okay, so there's something in the book of Romans that I covered last time or in a previous video, and I want to talk about a few more things that's a little bit more detail. I want to show you some things going on and make some comparisons and show how this is not a monomyth. It's very complex, but there's something going on in here that is, we're going to find out that there's repeating motifs in here from other material as well. And I'm going to start right off with, let's go to Romans. Oh, before I'll have 2 copies up of different material, depending on what I'm showing here. Anytime I'm doing word counts, I'm going to be using the King James Version. But as far as reading it and interpreting here, I'm going to go ahead and use the NRSVU just because it has a more plain language sound to it. All right, let's get into it. My name is Dan Paulson, everyone, and here we have it, Romans, New Revised Standard Version, Updated Edition. Now, right off the bat, there's something there that says, Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle, set apart for the gospel of God, which he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. Okay, so I don't know about anything in the Holy Scriptures indicating that Paul was going to be the person. There may be something there. There may be something added in. I don't know. There's always this idea that, like the idea that Jesus was prophesied. I'll tell you what's happening is that there is always somebody that follows this path. And anytime a prophecy says there's going to be a return of a prophet or a guru or a sage or something like that, everybody has a Buddha nature. Everybody has a Christ nature. When Jesus says, I will return before some of you have died, 2,000 years ago, people are still waiting for him. He returned before some of them even died. What does that mean? It's not a physical return. It's a mental or a spiritual return. This means somebody followed that path. That return happens there. Anytime somebody says, I see what's going on here. I'm not supposed to worship this individual like they're an idol. While I'm being told there's no idol there, look, there's no idol. There's something invisible instead. So you're worshiping an idol that doesn't even have an idol to it, when in all reality, there's something in there that is a pathway. And Paul knows that pathway. Paul is teaching Christianity, but Paul is teaching on this template. Paul knows what he's doing, and he knows the story of Jesus is fabricated in order to carry this template. That's going to take a while to understand. The material is complex, and people give it 5 minutes and say, I don't get it. In this day and age, people don't spend the time. In their time, all of this complex stuff we have, internet, things like that, all the different things, none of that was going on. You had a story memorized and you walked on foot and you talked with your friends. And you didn't turn on the electricity when you got home. So life was a lot different. We're not into these stories the way we need to be. They're much deeper than we think. If we give it time to understand them, we'll see something in there. And we'll see that people that are worshiping it are talked about in the material. They're the ones carrying it. The ark. They don't look inside. They're the ones standing outside the narrow gate, the many called. They are the group of the blind leading the blind, being fed by Pharisees who themselves are not consuming. There's a lot of metaphorical ideas that if you're understanding the material as historical instead of something that is analogous and metaphorical that needs to be played out in the psyche, that you're not in the narrow gate with the material. Paul knows that. Paul knows there's something at a deeper level. Can we get there? Paul's teaching something at a deeper level. Now, what is this first sentence, this calling? Well, let's find it elsewhere. All right, I want to talk about them, but I want to point them out. In Genesis, this is the very first time it occurs in what is currently the Holy Bible. Chapter 7, And the Lord said unto Noah, Come, you and all your house to the ark, for you have I seen righteous before me in this generation. So here, there's a choosing. God is choosing one individual, one person right there, and says, you are righteous before me in this generation. So here is somebody who out of the entire world, he's like the only good person left. Interesting. Okay, where does it occur next? It's going to occur next when we have Abram and Abraham. That's the beginning of the next monomyth. All right, chapter 12. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Get out of your country, from your kindred, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you, and curse them that curse you. And in you shall all families of the earth be blessed." Well, that's pretty wild there, isn't it? That's an intense calling. That's an individual being called right there. And then what happens, you have to be careful on these stories. What happens then, this special chosen person gets put into a land of famine. He has to leave. God disappears. He goes into a place where he's finally Abram and Sarai go into Egypt to live there. Fearful for his own life, Abram gives up his wife, Sarai, who agrees to claim that she's just a sister. Pharaoh marries her, gives them animals and slaves. Remember now, God just disappeared and put them in a land of famine, and here's this called person doing this, giving up his wife, getting animals, and what do we have down here? Sheep, oxen, he-asses, men servants, and maidservants, and she-asses and camels for his wife. However, God shows up, doesn't show up, but decides, I'm going to go ahead and send plagues after the fact. So he wasn't even there. So anyway, then Pharaoh finds out, "You're a liar, you lied to me." Pharaoh's the good guy and sends them off. You have to figure out how these stories make some kind of sense. They don't. Who would worship that? All right, where is the next calling? That was Abram. The next one is going to be Abraham. All right, now we drop into chapter 17 is where that happens. And we're going to look at and see in a second here that these chapters, the 7th, the 12th, the 17s, are following a macro pattern system. They're starting over a pattern. Yeah, there's something going on in a numbering pattern as well as the story patterns themselves. There's more than meets the eye here if we knew it well enough. We simply don't. But we have here, Abram was 90 years old and 9. Those are time to move on. That comes from our list as well. And he said to him, "I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be perfect. I'll make a covenant between me and you and multiply you exceedingly. Yep, I'll make a promise with you." So Abram fell on his face, and he makes the covenant, but he changes his name from Abram to Abraham. Now, this would represent a transition in our own life. You were living this life where you gave up your inner self, blind to the world. Now you are turning inward, going, "What have I become?" You are changing from Abram to Abraham. You are becoming something different. Remembering this is 5,000, 6,000-year-old stuff, so it's hard to get into it. It's hard to get out of our modern biases. Now, the stuff is really dense. In reality, there's 2 templates that we just looked at, the beginning of 2 of them right there. Number 12, the beginning of Abram and Sarai is the beginning of us at life. And you'll notice that God is there. This is another common motif. And then God disappears, sends plagues, goes and sends messages once in a while. You got angels of God or visions or something like that. But God has left the scene, departed. We would have seen that happen in the first part of Genesis 2. Cain and Abel, God departs, doesn't return till it's time for the destruction. But we've got the same thing right here. You'll notice that God physically leaves and then physically returns when it's time for that conversion to happen. That's when the actual calling is happening. The chapter 12, right at the beginning there, that was not a calling. That was the beginning of life. The calling is when you're being told it is now up to you to turn inward and go heal yourself. You're that person. There's a number of criteria that have to be met in order for you to become this person on the path. You become Noah. You become Abram and Abraham and Sarah and Sarai in a mental hierarchy. It's playing out in a way that we have to stop and figure out in our minds. We have to have time away from people and time where we can exercise this in our own minds in order to really understand it. That's what they were doing. It is not what we're doing. All right, let's move on to Exodus. We've got the same thing happening. There's where he is put in a basket and saved out, but he's not called yet. So this replicates, the first part here replicates the idea of Abram and Sarai all the way up till the calling happens. What we're going to do, though, is just go all the way up to where the calling happens. I'm just going to skip ahead. And that's going to be, where are we going to find it? We're going to find it on chapter 3, verse 10. That's a part of our grid. That's when the calling happens. It's right on a pattern, a numbering sequence pattern. Pure state. Now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. So right there, The calling just happened. He's up on Mount Horeb. God told him to remove your sandals, that sort of stuff, right? Happened right there. But right here, that's where the calling happens. You are the person that's going to go kick butt and take names on my behalf. Go do it. So that's when God returns and calls somebody when it's time to go destroy something. You'll notice that happening. All right, let's do something fun. Let's jump to Ezekiel. Ezekiel is just a straight-on monomyth. It does not feature the early life. This is when God returns and it's time to, go destroy something. Kick butt, take names. Something's gone bad, and I need you to go rectify it for me. That's, and I'll help you, but I need you to be part of it. You become Ezekiel. All right, so if I was to go look at Ezekiel here, what I'm going to see is right down here as I get down into verse 3. The word of the Lord came expressly unto the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Chebar, and the hand of the Lord was there upon him. The word of the Lord came expressly to the priest, the son of Buzi. There's one person expressly. Yeah, there's a calling right there. It went only to you. It goes on and does a bunch of other stuff. This is that one that people think, oh, that's a UFO they're describing right there. Here, I'm going to show you some things. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes, around about them four. And when the living creature went, the wheels went with them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Wherever the spirit was to go, they went. Wherever the spirit was to go, the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. You know what this is? This is decisions you've made. Look, how many eyes? Many eyes are full of eyes round about them. Four different directions we could go, full of eyes. Those are the decisions we've made, the things that we have named in life. And now what happens? We have wheels, cyclical happenings based on the nature of what we're holding those judgments are, and wherever life goes is wherever we go. That's what this means right here. It's not an alien, it's you, it's me. The wheels are the cycles of life experiences that we have based on the nature of all of the eyes, the judgments, what we see in them. That is the clogging of our spiritual eye. That is the mote in the eye right there. Those eyes are the mote in the eye in a very complex way. We need to understand these. In fact, let me show you that in a place where it's taught in a verse. It's a lot simpler to understand it here. This is the Tao Te Ching. This is Chinese. This is the same material, but it's not held in the same kind of wrapping paper. These highlighted parts right here, those wheels full of eyes, that's what this is right here. And where those wheels go, we go. Naming is the origin of all particular things. In the Tao Te Ching, what that means is us. As we begin to have life experiences and memories, that is the origin of them. We become a product of this right here. Naming is the origin of all particular things. In the Guia Fu Feng translation, he puts the named is the mother of 10,000 things. What did we see the other ones? All those eyes inside of the wheel. What do we have here? This is the second part of it. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Caught in those visions, caught in what you're holding on to, they continue to come around and around. Caught into the desire, caught in the things that you have named, the 10,000 things, you see only their manifestations. This is the cyclical nature of life happening again and again based on what we have decided upon in the past and what we're carrying with us. Both held in radically different ways. This one is not held in a monomyth. This one is held in a teaching verse. The other one is held in a monomyth. You have to know that you are that creature. You are that. All of this is you. When you begin to read the monomyth verse, let me get back to that. Right here, Ezekiel, you are Ezekiel. This is the Buddha's exact same variant from the Dhammapada. I'll just throw that in here. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It's made up of our thoughts. Okay, that one's very plain language. Whatever we have thought of in life, our experiences, our judgments, all of that is what makes us up. We live through our memories, if you think about it. Although we shouldn't. We don't start that way, but we end up that way. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, now this doesn't mean conscious. This is a mental process. We need to know it's at a deeper level in order to access it. It's not going to tell us that. We have to know that and act upon it. This would literally be considered the secret or the esoteric knowledge, how to access this material, how to gain knowledge. There's a process. There's a trick to it. And when you find the trick to it, that's the secret knowledge. You can unlock them all and interact with all of them once you know this. But you have to know it's a mental process, not a supernatural one. This means any person who has had something happen that is derogatory to them, that hurts their existence, whether you are the victim or the perpetrator, doesn't matter. It is something inside of us. A sin would be the same thing in Christian material. It is something that is hurting us. Pain follows, as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. Put yourself into these verses whenever it has something like that. I am the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. That's me in life. That's you in life. And the wheel follows. This pain, cyclical pain, follows based on the thought that's in there. There's the eye in the machine in Ezekiel, flowing around and around, and wherever we go, it goes with us. It's the same thing in a different verse, different style, different genre of teaching. Same material. Think of this. Pain follows those who have had an evil thought. God punishes those who have had an evil thought. When? When's the evil thought there? Over and over. Cycles are implied. I'm going to show you another common motif that starts off. You can tell what monomyths are and what this is by having certain elements that are commonly in there. It's going to be following a pattern. In order for the story to be an accurate representation of the human life cycle, it has to follow the template that is based on the human life cycle. You cannot deviate from that if you want to get it right. Okay, we get in Jewish material, they've got special things going on. Chapter 3, again, we've got our macro numbering there. What have we got, though? Moreover, he said to me, this is God talking to him, eat this roll and go speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. And he said unto me, the Son of Man, cause your belly to fill the bowels with this roll that I give you. Then did I eat it, and it was my mouth, and my mouth as sweet as honey. But what is this roll? And when I looked, behold, a hand was sent to me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And he spread it before me, and it was written within and without. And there was written within lamentations and mourning and woe. That's your life. It's written. Got to cross a threshold, eat it, consume it. We have to understand something. This is spiritual consumption. Learn this. Understand it. You're going to go on an adventure. You better know what to do. We got to turn inward and begin a healing process. Eat this roll. Learn this material. That's a common motif. And you know what? I mentioned this earlier. I almost forgot. Why is it time to eat this roll? Why are you going on the adventure? Yep, something needs to be managed, destroyed, something out of control. Chapter 2, what do we have? And he said to me, Son of man, I send you to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that has rebelled against me, and their fathers have transgressed against me, even to this very day. What happened when we just called Abraham? It's time to go destroy Sodom. Well, now it's time to go take care of the children of Israel, to the house of Israel. All of these are on a common template. They're going to sound radically different if you don't understand how the story components represent parts of you. The rebellious children of Israel is your early self. That's what needs to be destroyed. You turning inward and going after that is what we need to do. And in order to do that, you need to learn what to do by eating this roll. And yeah, it gets bigger and deeper. That's just what I'm going to suggest right here. We're going to see elsewhere. And that if you look at it, you go, oh, okay, I think I can interact with that. Otherwise, it sounds like a pretty goofy story, don't you think? Let's jump to Joshua. Stick to the Old Testament here for a while. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, therefore, go over the Jordan and find all the people to the land which I give to them, even to the children of Israel. So right here, what we have, Moses died, so God just suddenly appears to Joshua here. And every place, he's going to be getting the same thing, that all of this land is going to belong to you. I'm going to give it to all of you. Every place the sole of your foot shall tread upon, I'm going to give it to you, just like I told Moses. from the wilderness, from the Lebanon to the great river to the Euphrates, all the land. I'm glazing over this, I'm sorry. It's not important. And the great sea towards going down of the sun shall be your coast. So he's giving him all this space like any cold person. All of this is going to become yours. What this represents, remember, you're trying to make this mentally interactive. What is that? This space belongs to you and all that you fill it with, but it's up here. It's your mind. It starts out blank. You have completely filled it with what? From the farthest regions of life existence, it is full of all these things. Now it's a calling time. It is yours. What are you going to do with it? This is your mind space. That's what that is. All that land that is yours is up here. There shall not be any man that will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you, and I will not fail you or forsake you. Okay, what did they just hide in there? I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. Sounds different? Same thing. I will not fail you or forsake you. There will not be any man able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. More than that, though, when we start going on the internal healing path, what we have to do is consciously understand the mental hierarchy, and we learn how to re-engage with the higher awareness instead of dismissing it and allowing the emotions to take over. Part of eating that roll, eating the scroll, eating these words is a part of learning that process. That in order to face these things that we're afraid of, we have to engage with our higher awareness, which is going to be God. And it's not going to, when we turn inward to face those memories, we have to do it from a mental state of consciously engaging with the higher awareness, not by dismissing it and feeling the emotions. It'll get so shameful and fearful we get away from it. It's not a way to heal. So we have to re-engage with the higher awareness to do this. And that's part of the teaching as well. I will not fail you or forsake you. I will be there. But you have to know that. You have to know that I'm here. In the Bhagavad Gita, if you were to read that, what you're going to see is that Arjuna is needing to go to battle to get his land back. He's got family members, the early self that's supposed to give it back. They're not going to give it back. So he's riding with Krishna. Krishna's the chariot driver. Krishna is driving the chariot for him, but it's Arjuna that must make the decisions. That's the way this works. The higher awareness is like, you know what? I'm here. I can drive it for you. You got to bring me along. But damn it, you're the consciousness in the driver's seat. You got to be making the decisions. I'll drive the chariot, but you have to make decisions. I cannot do it for you. I cannot step in and resolve it for you. You have to use me and go resolve it yourself. Be strong and of good courage, for this people to divide for an inheritance the land which I swear to their fathers I gave them. Only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Turn not from the right hand to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Just stay on a straight course. Conservatives and liberals, take a lesson here. Your extremism is not okay. The book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth. What did we do? We just ate a roll. Now we got a book of the law that should not depart out of your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, and you may observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then you shall make the way prosperous, and you shall have good success. All right, so we had our calling, and then we're eating our book. We're learning this stuff again. It even tells you to meditate on it day and night. In other spiritual teachings, that same thing kind of emerges as we're told to constantly be able to self-observe. It's very common for us to just flow through life having our emotional experiences and just riding the tide. At some point, you might recognize, God, I'm caught up in something here and I need to step out of it. I got to start observing myself. What am I doing? I'm just getting caught up in stuff. That's what they're doing in this case right here. The meditating on it day and night, the looking at things, the being able to sit back and go, you know what? When I'm not paying attention, I'm right back into that. I need to learn to pay attention. Put up little reminders or something. I don't know if you can see, I got like little rock cairns up on my shelf back there. I've got decorations around that are just, I'll spot them and they're reminders to me that jogs my mind into saying, oh yes, be self-aware. Stay on the path. Also, something else here, it may not always show up this readily, but sometimes it does. It depends on the story. You see that also right in the beginning here. We're going to have to cross a river, Jordan. There's a threshold that is there. What did we have in Ezekiel? We've got the river Chebar. We're going to have to cross the river Chebar. So both of these are very similar in that they're not hiding very well that common motif. Honestly, when you're at that stage of the story with Exodus, you've got the same thing. It's not a river, it's the Red Sea. If you found the Jason story, the Greek story of Jason and the Argonauts, the voyage of the Argo, you're going to find what they're going to do is sail through the clashing rocks. When we get to Jesus, we're going to see that there's a baptismal. You'll see that what happens, the Israelites cross through the Red Sea and spend 40 years in the desert. Jesus goes through a baptismal and spends 40 days in the wilderness. Do you see some repeating common motifs in there? A numbering system, and then the desert, a wilderness, this analogous terminology that means kind of a place that's devoid. It's not the city. It's not raucous. It's not slums and suburbs. It's peace, quiet, devoid of, emptiness. Pure mind. That's your mind. It's being called, you're going to cross a threshold, you're going to eat this scroll, eat this roll. You're an individual called above all others is right there as a part of the repeating motif. All right, Jeremiah is another one. Let's take a look and see what we've got here. We're going to start off with the words of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, the priests that were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Lord came in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. Do you see that 13 right there? We got on our list 13 right after 12. It's time to move on. This is the 13th year of his reign means it's time to get underway. It's a bad thing. It came also in the days of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, unto the end of the 11th year. 11th again, one after 10. Year of Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, unto the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 5th month. 5. That's a good thing. It's on verse 3. Oh, well, let me go ahead. Then the Lord came unto me, saying, Before I formed you in the belly, I knew you, and before you came forth out of the womb, I sanctified you, and I ordained you a prophet to the nations. Bam! That's a calling right there. This is, I knew you before your mom became pregnant. I knew you. Okay, if that's not a prediction of something is called, I don't know what is. But then he said, Lord God, behold, I cannot speak, for I am a child. And the Lord says to me, say not that I'm a child, for you shall go, and I shall send you, and whatever I command you, you shall speak. Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with you to deliver to the Lord. And the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said to me, Behold, I have put words into my mouth. There you have it. Eat a scroll, eat a roll. Words in my mouth. Behold, I have put words in my mouth. See, I have set you over nations and over the kingdoms to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down and to build and to plant. So we've got a calling, somebody that's going to kick butt and take names, and got supernatural aid. Words in the mouth. You see that. We also saw a denial. He said, I am only a child. Where do we see that? Watch Moses. Let's go look at Exodus. Here we have it. Moses. This is when he's on Mount Horeb and God is calling him and telling him to go. That's what we have up here. Moses at the burning bush. He's there and the Lord talks to him and gets ready and all that kind of stuff. And then here's what happens in chapter 4. Moses answered, But look, they may not believe me or listen to me, but say, the Lord did not appear to you. And so he gets his staff. But he says later, Oh, my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now that you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. He doesn't want to do it. God tells him, yeah, it'll be all right. But then he finally says, Oh, Lord, please send someone else. verse 13. So that changes around right there. But you see Moses 3 times denies the call. I don't want to go. I don't want to do it. I don't speak right. Please send somebody else. Not everybody denies the call. Do you know another story of a 3-time denial? You're seeing common motifs. Figure them out. They're there for a reason. You're not going to find too many call denials in Greek mythology, but here we see it periodically. And we definitely see it with Moses saying, no, I don't want to go. And we saw it with Jeremiah right here on verse number 6. Behold, I cannot speak, for I am a child. Anyway, then God says, well, I'll speak for you, or I'll give you the words when it's time to say them. But I just wanted to point out that denial part. It's not always present, but you will see it, and we saw it with Moses as well. We would see it with Muhammad. Muhammad is 40 years old when he goes into the cave. And it's told that, his lips will be touched at the time that it's there. We've got replicating things going on in Abrahamic material across the board. Jews, Christians, Muslims, guess what? Y'all hate each other over monomyths. You're tribal. That's what the real deal is. First of all, if we had the Enuma Elish from the Babylonians, we've got the Tablet of Fate. When we get into the Exodus story later, it's much later than that. What do we have? Tables of stone, the 10 Commandments. They emerged from the Tablets of Fate from the Babylonians. Joshua, we have the Book of the Law. The book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth. This is the truth and reality. The Lord, from Jeremiah, and the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth. There I put words in your mouth. Ezekiel, there was written therein on this roll lamentations and mournings and woe. Moreover, he said to me, Son of man, eat this roll and go speak to the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth and he caused me to eat that roll. There's words in your mouth. Where does this come from? Habakkuk. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. We'll leave that one out for now. All right, are you seeing common things? There's a person that's called. You're the one. For some reason, you're a special person that's called. One even went so far as to say, I knew you before you were even... Before the egg was fertile, I knew who you were. That's, whoa. Okay, so what that's telling us is that there's not very many people going to do this. We're going to see this in other ways that are not put in that kind of verbiage, but things that are like, many carry the ark, few can open it up and look inside. That many stand outside the narrow gate where only a few, the solitary, will enter in. Those are also going to be ways of teaching that not very many people are going to do this. It's a very rare and isolated thing. You must turn inward. There's a code to what's going on there. Honestly, if we went back to Marduk, the called hero in the 7 tablets of creation from the Babylonian creation epic, the Enuma Elish, that what you will see is that he's described as having, larger ears, larger eyes, more power, something like that. What we're honestly dealing with, if you look at it, there's actually a filtering criteria for the person that goes on this path that's going to do this. You're going to have the right brain type to begin with. Your brain has to work a certain way. There's things that you will do automatically. Like when I was in Sunday school listening to the stories, I didn't observe them from a distance. I played like I was there. When I heard the story of Jesus, I'm with him when we're walking along the road and the fig tree is not producing and there's no figs on it. And he commands it to die. And instantly I am in my imagination yelling at Jesus for doing that. It's like, you could have had it become heavily laden with figs. Why did you make it die? Okay, if your head does that stuff, you need to have the brain that's going to be kind of that way to begin with. You really look at these stories and go, I see a problem here. I see character flaws. I see conflict. I see a lot of things going on here, yet there's something in the background that keeps me looking for more. There's a pattern of something in there that keeps me hooked into it. But at the end of the day, the best I can come up with is a certain type of a personality that's an introverted brain type that does certain things. You have certain patterns of behavior that are yours naturally. And at some point you look at this material, and if somehow you got on course, you can have the right brain type and never get on course. You can have too many other issues. So not only not only do you have to have the right brain type, but you have to have the right experiences and then the right kind of drive and the right opportunity, whatever it takes. Although I can see that at one point in time, these were so prevalent that it was well known as something. People were making stories on these all over the place in antiquity. Today, you ask experts in mythology if they know what the monomyth is, and they don't even talk to you. It's like, I've heard about that crap. It's nothing's there. Oh my God, it's all over the place, but people can't see it anymore because of what it takes. But you know what? You have to see that for yourself. All right, so as you're going through all of the material, there's this idea of being remote, of being contemplative, of getting away, of being meditative, of, the wise man gets away from the crowd to contemplate, and things like that are generally parts of the teaching. And at some point in time, you realize, you know what, that's an introverted personality right there. I don't have to practice that. I can't stop doing that. I require that. If I'm around a crowd too much, it drives me crazy. I have to get away. So you look at certain things and go, those are kind of personality traits. This is the learning and the path of the introvert. If you're going to sit there someplace quietly, in contemplation, you have to be somebody that can manage being quiet. But you would have evolved to have the kind of a high sensitivity, awareness. Your brain thinks logically in a different way than most people do. So really this field narrows down. This person, when God appears to a selected person, if you are the person that goes, yeah, I'm going to turn inward and go on this path, bingo, you just found yourself on this template. You're that person. You are who that is. You are Abram and Sarai, your consciousness in your inner self. God is your higher awareness, who disappears because we begin to live through our memories, reappears when it's time for the calling, because that's when we go, oh shit, I'm living through my memories. That's not right. I have a higher awareness that I am this is who I really am, not those. I'm allowing my pain and my shame and my feelings to keep me wrapped up in those. Those are the mote in my eye. That's the odd against my brother. My life cannot flow well because that's there. That is Noah's world that needs to be destroyed. That is Sodom that needs to be destroyed. That is Jericho that needs to be destroyed. This is regaining control of the out-of-control Israelites. In all cases, it is the idea of going back and regaining control of this right here, knowing that we came from a place where we weren't taught that. We're just taught to judge, deal with things. A certain personality is going to function differently throughout life. It's not going to quite fit. And you might find yourself being the one that goes, yeah, I don't like the way I feel. I want to do something to change it because it's hurting my future. The more I ignore the past, it doesn't go away. It's still there. I have to find a way to set it down. Whew. Small group, very small group right there. Okay, and the way that the monomyth works, it always plays out in the mind. So what's happening here when we see that happen? God returns. That's us reattaching. That's us understanding that our higher awareness is where we need to go to. When Eckhart Tolle talks about the moment in time where he's tossing and turning in his sleep and thinking, God, I can't live with myself anymore, he begins to realize he's got a dialogue. Who are these two people? One is a problem and one isn't. And he begins to realize that from there on, it grows into this understanding that I'm living through my memories and I'm not those. This is the higher self out here. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for that same thing, the exact same thing. It's that part of us that is a conscious awareness that resides outside of the emotions and the feeling of the emotions. And it logically knows what to do. When we go to re-engage with what we're supposed to do, we tend to not like that because it's scary. It's facing shame, pain, hurt, things that we've been conditioned to be fearful of. So we don't like dealing with those things. Okay, so at any rate, what you're seeing here in the story is God calls a specific person, is giving them some kind of words in their mouth. It's time to do some sort of a destruction. Typically, there's a threshold that has to be crossed. And all of those component parts are going to be right up front in the story as it happens. It's going to go on through the adventure, but these up front, you can tag them right up the front and say, these are all replicating a pattern. People talk about the flood and saying there's a few places that share the flood. You know what? It's an entire template that's being shared. The flood destroying the world is the same place on the template as a city being destroyed. Noah gets called, the world has to be destroyed. Abraham is called, Sodom has to be destroyed. Joshua is called, Jericho has to be destroyed, etc. If you go through there, you'll see that all of these are repeating a common motif. And what they are is us getting to a point in life where we go, this represents myself. And this thing that needs to be destroyed, that's gone corrupt, is me. It's me going, what the hell happened? Well, I just grew up not knowing any different. You make decisions and you do stupid stuff, and later if you're the right person, you're going to grow through that and feel, oh my gosh, I've got to shed this. Not many people are, but most people will just hold on to that stuff. If you're the person that wants to grow, you have to shed it. This pathway is how to shed that, how to defeat that, how to defeat the enemy. And it's a tough thing to defeat. Okay, so let's go back to Romans. What I want to look at something there, it's not going to be exactly that same way. Paul is not following this monomyth sequential pattern that I'm showing you here. But there are some things that are going to be shown, like number one, he's isolated out as a called person. You see that right off the bat up front. I have been designated. That means I am a person that has learned. You will also see something else happens. What happens with the Buddha? He goes from Siddhartha Gautama, he gets enlightenment, he becomes the Buddha. We have Jesus who, if you understand the story, this is tricky. He's Jesus in the beginning, but after the calling, he is Christ, Jesus Christ. It's a multiple reference depending on where you are. But you see this transition happening there where you start out as one person with one name, but you transition into something with a different name. And it's after that enlightenment or conversion process. You will instantly recognize that same motif with Paul. He started out persecuting Christians as Saul of Tarsus. After his conversion, he became Paul. So we're seeing the same thing happen. Before, I'm this person. After this transition, I have now become this person. It's showing how we are going from one person to another. When I was young, I got caught trying to steal a bag of cookies from the store. I am not that little boy anymore. I am something different. This story might have something in there, giving that a name and having it do that with you, going, what did that brat little kid do? Yeah, that's what you did one time right there. Just put it right into the story. But it's not who you are. You give it its own name, its own place. It's something from long ago. It was a moment of, I'm stupid. I want something and I don't know any better. And I'm about ready to learn a big-ass lesson here. That's who it is. It's not who I am, but that's how they slice up the stories. There's a conscious part, there's a stored part, and there's times, and there's transitions. What we're seeing here is the transition from old self to new self. We see it in Paul too. All right, I'm back to Romans at NRSVU, updated edition, UE. And it starts off, Paul, a servant of Christ, called to be an apostle, set apart for the gospel of God, which he promised beforehand through his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. So this is a self-designation. This is, I have been called, I am the called person. The gospel concerning his son, who is descended from David according to the flesh. I want to point out something down here as we get through here. This is the salutation part we talked about on a previous video down to verse 7 where it ended. But if we look over here, we'll see that saints is used. And if we were to know that saints, if we take a look at our list here, that's a step from 7 to 8, first sin. So if we go back here, what is Paul telling us on verse 7? If he's repeating saints 8 times, what is he doing? Why is he telling us that the saint secretly is the bad thing? He's giving greetings and salutations wonderful to you all. Psst, they're bad guys. I'm going to tell you 8 times here. Shh, top secret. That's what's going on right there. Who are the saints? The saints are the people teaching the gospel. They're teaching the word of God. They're not teaching the inner path. They're not teaching how to interpret it and to interact with the material in a way that it becomes yours. The saints are not teaching the right material. We're going to hear about them. They're going to be also a role, Pharisees. We're going to see that in the Gospel of Thomas. The Pharisee is like a dog in a manger, for neither does he eat nor does he let the cattle eat, or something to that effect. And that verse, I think it's 102. It's actually derived from a Greek Aesop's fable about 500 years older called The Dog in the Manger, where the dog is guarding the food from the cattle, and the dog isn't eating its food, nor is he letting the cattle eat their food. Selfish. So that verse got adopted for use because it's perfect. What does this represent? The idea that somebody is feeding you this material, but they don't know what's really in there. So they're not feeding it to you correctly. They're not giving you what's really there. They're not consuming it, and you're not getting fed the right thing either. He's telling you that. The saints are not teaching the right thing. If you're the explorer, shh, you got to know the secrets. There it is. There's another one I'm going to paraphrase, also from the Gospel of Thomas. They're trying to be more clear and jog your head in a more clear language manner. But it's the scribes and Pharisees that have locked up the keys of knowledge. They've locked up knowledge somehow and lost the keys, or they don't enter in, nor do they let anyone else enter in. And that's it, the knowledge, the pathway. Enter into what? The narrow gate. They're the people that are teaching the outward path. And Paul is telling us the saints are in that same category. All right, so that's important to learn in Paul's material. Paul is secretly telling us something deeper. He's on board with it. Now, I don't see this transition from 7 to 8 happen here, from a good to a bad. It's actually ending right in the beginning, the salutation, and then it starts a prayer of thanksgiving. However, I want to note something as we get into chapter 2. Something very starkly happens that'll pop right out at us. I'm going to read all the way down here to verse 9 or 10 or something like that. Therefore, you are without excuse, whoever you are, when you judge others, for in passing judgment on another, you condemn yourself, because you, the judge, are doing the very same things. That's one sentence. And that's also a rewording of Jesus saying, judge not, lest you be judged, for the judgment with which you judge others will be likewise condemned to you. We know that teaching. We know that God's judgment on those who do such things is in accordance with truth. Complete sentence. Do you imagine, whoever you are, that when you judge those who do such things and yet do them yourself, you will escape the judgment from God? Or do you despise the riches of his kindness and forbearance and patience? That's a sentence right there. Do you not want to realize God's kindness is meant to lead you to repentance? So 4 and 5, sentence 4 and 5 were put in verse 4. They were not broke up. So far, they're broken up by verse till we got to here. Then 2 sentences are combined. But then what happens? 5 happens, but by your hard and impenitent heart, you are storing up wrath for yourself on the day of wrath, when God's righteous judgment will be revealed. That's the 6th sentence, and it's on verse 5. Here we have 6, 7, and 8 is one sentence, but it's broken up, and watch what it does. He will repay according to each one's deeds. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is a variation of I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. He will repay according to each one's deeds. To those who by patiently doing good seek for glory and honor and immortality, he will give eternal life. 8. While for those who are self-seeking and who obey not the truth, but injustice, there will be wrath and fury. That would be sentence number 7. You see what happened here. When Paul wrote this, he did not have chapters and verses. They were not in existence. It was just a story. It started and it flowed. But Paul had these concepts in here in order, and if you had it memorized, you would not need to have those numbers pointed out to you. Now, in order to go ahead and make it easier for people to study, yes, you can say that I broke it down into chapters and verses, so just so people can study. Why would you break up the sentences like this? But if you start looking, you will find, not in all cases, but in some cases, this very specific step from 7 to 8. From our pattern step, from Garden of Eden, from pure state into 8 into first sin. Then what do we have down here? We will give eternal life for those who do good, or wrath and fury to those who don't. Heaven and hell, right there in 7 and 8. So we're seeing that that would be the micro level. It is not in every place that I can see. If I jump down here to 3. But if through my falsehood God's truthfulness abounds to his glory, why am I still being judged as a sinner? But if through my falsehood God's truthfulness abounds to his glory. I'll have to study this a bit. And why not say, as some people slander us by saying that we let us do evil so that good may come? Their judgment is deserved. I don't quite get it, but it doesn't sound like that 7 and 8 jump that was so obvious back here. So maybe it only appears in certain chapters, and there's just deeper patterns than what I can yet observe, because I'm very limited in this. And it's so big and it's so deep. They had things going on that they spent their lives doing this. Imagine George Lucas, spending his entire life just making Star Wars. That's kind of what this is going on. So I look at this and go, you know what? Paul knows something different. He's not teaching the religion. As we go through, the video's getting too long. I need to talk through those things and show those common motifs to start hooking in to how the material works, but also in a way to show what Paul's doing. We didn't see the same elements happening there as far as it's time to come in and kick butt and take names or things like that. There's going to be kind of a different sort of a thing happening. It's not a monomyth. It's more of a story, an admonition of what to do. But as we interpret it, we're going to find that it's basically a lot of repeating of what's already been said in the Bible, just put in his own language. That would be another video to do that one, to get into that interpretation. But in this case, looking at the numbers, looking at those and utilizing them and seeing what they're there for, we begin to understand something. Even Paul is telling us, hey, there's something that is deeper than the religion. Look for it. It's snuck in here for you to find. Now, saints, have a wonderful day. I bless you. Seekers. 8. Saints are 8. Yeah. That's how the material works. We can navigate it. There's something happening at a deeper level for the people that can get to that level. We can use the computer to supplement what we don't have memorized. We have to. It's kind of cheating, but we have to do it that way. If we don't do it that way, we're not going to see it. Nobody is going to know the Bible well enough today. Even if they have one book memorized, they don't have enough memorized to see this all across the board. You saw what I just did, pulling them up on the computer, putting them side by side. We can't talk through that. We can't read through that. There's something that has to happen differently. If we don't have them memorized, we have to do this with the computer. Anyway, okay, that's it. Paul knows something deeper. He's teaching something deeper, and it's evident. And he's following patterns that were established in Genesis. He's not inventing anything new except the religion, the shell, the way it's carried, while maintaining the same internal human template, the right path. As you read through his letter to the Romans, you really get this idea that it doesn't matter, the circumcision, all of that stuff, physical, none of that matters. It's really a conduct. It's the way you are. It's the way you believe, and that there are people who have never been taught the word, that have the right belief, that are fine. There's this understanding from Paul, if you really break this down, that your belief in God is not a requirement. Your conduct in the way you live life and exist with others is the only important thing. Beyond that, this is written in such a way so that the people that can't get there are going to carry it. But if you can get there, well, the thing to understand is that all of the clues to get there are still in the material, but it is so cryptic and it is not taught correctly. When you go to church and they sit down and say, bow your head and pray, let's begin, let's stand up and praise, your bingo. 8. Saints. This is an inner path. This is weird. I used to go up in the mountains all the time, and I had this little tiny, it's a New Testament shirt pocket Bible. Today, I can't even read it. It's so small. This is long ago. I would just read Matthew, Mark, and Luke, trying to figure that out. I'm not a Christian. I'm looking at this going, I got to figure this out. I'm reading Buddhism, Taoism, studying all three of them at the same time. I'm up in the mountains solo. My headlamp at night in the tent. I got to get up early and finish my climb in the morning. But it's cold at night. It's, the sunset. Get inside your tent in your sleeping bag. It's still early. It's like 6 o'clock, but what are you going to do? It's cold. You crawl in. I would crawl in my sleeping bag with my headlamp on and just take out that Bible and read and study. Man, I got hours and hours, and in a lifetime, honestly, at some point, and in retirement, getting into this, I've got just honestly tens, perhaps hundreds of thousands of hours into just studying this, putting it side by side, looking at it, researching it. At some point, things begin to emerge. Here, let me do this. This is actually trying to qualify myself. So over my lifetime, I've had jobs where I worked remote. I've done videos on this before. But as far as studying things, I had a vehicle. I would travel for hours to get to remote locations that I had to do maintenance on. And I would spend sometimes as much as a week in the area at a particular station doing maintenance on it, grounds cleanup, things like that, alignment of power supplies and all the stuff necessary to make sure it worked. Okay, you covered it all. That was it. So I would spend time out there, and I got with the teaching company, and I just started ordering up stuff. I traveled all the time. I was always alone, and I listened to these great world religions, Islam. And if you look through these, you'll see that there's actually, bunches of CDs in them, and each CD about an hour long. So great world religions, Islam, Confucius, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad. Teachers are Professor Muse, Professor Esposito. We know Professor Bart Ehrman, The Great Controversies of Early Christian History, Spiritual Brain, Science and Religious Experience, Dr. Andrew Newberg, Dr. Jeanette Norden, Understanding the Brain, Professor Malcolm David Eckel, Buddhism, Bart Ehrman again, Lost Christianities, Christian Scriptures and the Battles Over Authentication, Professor Luke Timothy Johnson, Mystical Tradition, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And these are I'm just showing you one CD. These are multiple packs. This is, part 3 of, it's probably a multiple, more than that even. Great courses, biology and human behavior. So these I would have I had the job for years. I played these for years, over and over again, repeatedly. There's a point in time where stuff starts to stick, even in the most discombobulated brain. Anyway, okay, so the qualifications there are what? They're really, I've sat through lectures. I would sit through this lecture again and again and again and again. I have spent hundreds, perhaps thousands of hours in lectures. I was driving a vehicle, but there it is right there. So all of this stuff is available, but I think that it does take a certain, looking at what I went through to gain access to this makes me realize how difficult it might be to really get here. That people have to be looking at things, they have to want to. Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's why the channel is so dead. If you can follow along, you just see that the complexity of it it's so big that I think I think we've kind of lost it, sadly. Anyway, you know what though? 500 years ago or so, that's when the chapters and the verses went into the Bible. That's when a Catholic priest put them into the Bible. The Catholic priest knew exactly what these concepts were and is trying to help us get our way back in, which tells us what? The Catholic Church knows this is an internal pathway and that the religion itself is a carrier shell, but it's incredibly important to continue to have priests that teach the religion and to keep people going. At the same time, they already know that the one pathway in is what this is really based upon. That's perhaps why Catholic priests in the past made decisions that were like, don't you believe in hell? Perhaps they didn't. I don't know. Teaching one thing for a population while knowing that it is not right. Is that still the right thing? Shouldn't we get behind the curtain here and see what's going on? I think so. Anyway, all right. Hope the video was interesting. See you in the next one.